Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Fossett. I'm a PhD student at Harvard and also research lead at Plurality Institute. Can you hear me okay? Great. And I'm excited to be telling you today a little bit about our developing project, Bridging Bot, LLMs for de-escalation and bridging in online conversations. And so a little bit of motivation for this project. So we all know that contentious and polarizing conversations are a big concern online. Think about people arguing on the internet and yelling at each other, calling each other names. So previously a lot of effort at dealing with this problem has focused on what I'll call content moderation type strategies. So things like removing, demoting, labeling problematic content, conversations, and users. But as we've been hearing about already, LLMs present a lot of new opportunities for kind of like engaging more proactively to mediate these sorts of conflict and help make disagreements more constructive online. And so our project is exactly in that spirit. So Bridging Bot is a tool powered by LLMs that can automatically identify and intervene in contentious online conversations. The way we're thinking about what its goal is that Bridging Bot is trying to promote constructive conflict and helping users to find common ground and build mutual understanding without necessarily trying to eliminate disagreement. We're just trying to kind of help it be more constructive. And so, how do we actually do that? Here's kind of like a visual representation of how we've been thinking about it. So, on the one hand, we want to be drawing from all this amazing background and research, some of which we've heard about today, from the conflict mediation world and all the things that we already know about how to mediate conflict both online and offline. But at the same time, we know that LLMs aren't going to be able to do all those things effectively, and so we want to be keeping in mind, from these strategies that we know about, what are some things that LLMs can actually do well. And then the last one down here that I think is also really important and that we've been really trying to bake into our approach is, we also want to be doing things that make sense in the context of a particular focal community that's going to be using a tool like this, both in terms of the type of content that we're surfacing and also, how we're saying it, right? Communicating in a way that makes sense. And so a couple of things that we have been focused on, especially a couple of strategies that we think kind of fit in this sweet spot, are the following. We've already heard about some of these types of things. The first we're calling translation and de-escalation, and here again we're thinking about translation in the kind of general sense of translating not just between languages, but between ways of thinking or ways of speaking. And so can our bot come in and restate, if two people are disagreeing, can it come in and restate what they're saying in clear and neutral and de-escalated sort of terms that are comprehensible to everyone in the conversation? And this is inspired by existing work from many folks here. And then the second area, which we've also heard about a bit already, is can our bot come in and identify areas of agreement? So, identifying things that we think people might be agreeing with, even if they're disagreeing about other things. And so I have a little example here that to make this a little bit more concrete. So we've been focusing a lot on Reddit. If you are a cyclist like me, you might know that bike lanes are a particularly polarizing issue in many spaces. So this is an example from a Reddit post, r/BikeBoston. I'm from the Boston area. Someone obviously parked directly in the middle of the bike lane. And this gives rise to a conversation that is, I'll say, not the most constructive. So the first person says, anybody who thinks this is an issue, parking like this is an idiot. Like, this guy is trying to do his job. He has 50 other stops, and he doesn't have time to worry about blocking a bike lane for 7 minutes. Grow up. Other person comes in and says, anyone who agrees with you is a moron. This guy needs to obey the laws, and so on, right? And so this is, in fact, one small snippet of a much larger conversation between these two users. But so what might an LLM intervention look like, or a Bridging Bot intervention look like in this setting? And so this is generated from just some straightforward prompting using ChatGPT 01 preview, I believe. And so it comes in and it says, hey, it looks like you're debating about whether it's okay to block the bike lane for a few minutes while doing your job. And then, so this first part is kind of the summary and translation piece of the story. So it's going to try to restate both of what the two conversation participants are saying in kind of taking out the name calling and the sort of meanness. And I think this is a useful example because there really is a substantive disagreement that they're having, but it's kind of being elided by the name calling and the sort of toxicity. And so, here, user 1 thinks the driver is just trying to get his work done in the, oh, I can read over here. No, I can't. Just trying to get his work done and doesn't have many options, so we should cut him some slack. User 2 believes that blocking the bike lanes is illegal and dangerous, and so the driver should, find, a legal way to do this, and so on. And then the second part is putting together a proposed consensus statement. Here, the bot tries to surface the idea that maybe, changes to city infrastructure could actually be helpful in kind of mitigating this issue in the first place, and maybe both conversation participants would agree with that. And so this is just an example. In general, doing this flexibly, at scale in all the different sorts of conversations that are happening online is obviously super, super hard. A couple of things that are coming out as we've been working on this, identifying the right conversations to intervene in is just as important and, difficult as formulating the intervention itself. A second thing that kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier is that, different communities, and so we've been doing a lot of talking with Reddit moderators because we're imagining this, as a starting point as a moderator tool. But, different moderators in different communities have different needs, right? And we want our tool to be responsive to that. And further, some communities, this might not be a good fit at all, and that's, what some folks have told us, which is fine. And of course, it's worth surfacing, there's plenty of ways that this type of intervention could backfire or go wrong, and so we want to be really thoughtful about that as we're developing. And so, a couple of ways that we're thinking about overcoming these things, I think Beth also mentioned this, this approach of build with, not for, and so, trying to do these interviews with Reddit moderators, kind of be in touch with the people who we're hoping might want to use this tool. And this is great as a standalone value, but also to actually hopefully make a tool that is useful and is going to work well in particular contexts. And then the second piece I want to talk to you a little bit about is the research and evaluation part of this. So, I'm a researcher, and so I think that, studying whether and how these interventions work is also extremely important. And so in this project, we're working on a couple of ways of doing this. So we've been, currently in this stage mostly of offline testing. Like I said, we're doing a lot of interviews with moderators, doing a lot of iteration, collecting different examples and testing things out. And then we're hoping in the next few months to do 2 randomized controlled trials in different settings to study the effects of this tool. So we're first hoping to do, and we're just getting this up and running right now, a kind of lab experiment using this platform called Deliberate Lab, which is a great open source platform from Google People in AI Research for studying these types of things. It's inspired by research design from some folks that are here. And then we're hoping to eventually, in collaboration with moderators, proceed to testing this out in the field. I am here representing a great team, many of whom are here working on this. So please come talk to us about this project and give us your thoughts and feedback, and we're excited to continue the conversation. So I'll wrap up there. Thank you very much.